So the first one is the interest rates. So if we want to borrow money from the bank will charge us the cost of borrowing that money. So this money is called the interest rates. So it means each and every bank or each and every lending institution will have an interest rate. So this becomes the cost of borrowing. So it means we are having the bank, for example, it's giving us the loan, which is called the principal. So the original amount of money which is given, which we are borrowing, it's called the principal. The principal. And then apart from this principal, the bank is attaching an interest. So an interest. So this is the cost of borrowing this money. So now, these interest rates, they become a factor, one of the external factors that influence the business activity within that market. So the changes in interest rates or the changes in cost of borrowings, they affect how businesses operate within the market. So I listed down some of the impacts of interest rates on businesses. So the first one is impact on borrowing, so which is one of the most obvious impact. So these interest rates, they are determined by the banks, which can be either the central banks or other commercial banks. So when the interest rates are increasing, so it means the cost of borrowing the funds is also increasing. So what it means that if we are going to borrow, for example, 1 million, and then we have a specific interest rate, it means at the end of the day, we have to pay the principal and the interest which is attached. But then once the interest rate is increasing, then the cost of this debt or the cost of this loan, it also increases, which means that the overall amount that we have to pay at the end will be higher than what we borrowed from the organization. So this becomes one of the impact of interest rates, whereby as the interest rates are increasing, it means also the cost of borrowing or the cost of this debt or this loan, it also increases. Because at the end of the day, we have to pay both the principal as well as the interest which is attached to this loan. So the other one is on consumer spending and demand. So each and every business will need consumers, or who are also called customers, to be purchasing the products. So a business without customers, it means it's not a business. So it means businesses rely on customers to be purchasing the products that are provided by these companies. But then the increase or the decrease of the interest rates, they also affect the consumer spending, or how much the consumers are spending, or how much the consumers are demanding. So for example, we want to spend on a certain product, or we want to demand. So by demand, we mean the amount of products that consumers consumers are willing to buy at a specific time, a specific place, and specific price. So what happens is that when interest rates are low, so for example, the banks, they're offering low interest rates. So it means as a consumer, as a customer, he can be able to borrow money from these banks or from these lending institutions just because the interest rates are low. So at the end of the day, because he or she has money, he'll be able to spend this money on a certain product, or he or she will be able to demand a certain product because he now has money after borrowing the money from a certain bank or certain lending institutions. So it means by having low interest rates as an organization, we are increasing consumer spending. It means consumers are now able to spend on multiple products because they have money. And then their demand in certain products is also increasing because they have money after borrowing from the banks and other people who are lending money on the market. Questions on consumer spending and demand. So questions or any suggestions, any clarifications on how interest rates affect consumer spending and demand. Questions or anything that you want to add? So the next one is impact on savings and investment. So interest rates also have an impact on savings and investment. So each and every individual would like to save. So when you are saving, it means you are setting aside money which you want to use them in the near future or in a distant future. So you are saving, you are putting aside some amount of money to be used in a certain period of time. So now savings, they also, interest rates, they also affect the savings and investments of an organization. So for example, so we have to consider this as a savings account. So you have an account with a certain bank, and then you have this savings account. So the banks, they will have interest rates. So when the interest rates are high, it means if a person is saving money using this bank, at the end of the day, the person will get high interest rates. So he'll be paid a certain amount interest at the end of the day. But then when the interests of this bank are low, it means this person will be demotivated. He or she will not be able to save money just because the interest the interest rates that are provided by this bank or these lending institutions are low. So based on the overall rates of the interest, a person can be motivated to invest, to save, and also to invest in a certain commodity by just looking at how the interests are faring on the market. So that's on interest rates, on how they affect savings and investment. Investment decisions. So as an organization, you have to be making what are called investment decisions. So we have investment decisions, financing decisions that are made by the organization. So on investment, we are making decisions on the assets that are used in running the organization. For example, if we are buying a certain equipment that is used in the operations of a business, that is called capital investment, because we are investing on something which will be used as capital within the organization. Now, the organization's capital investment will also be influenced by the interest rates. So how? So for example, we are still going to be referring to the bank, which is lending the money to businesses. So the banks are offering low interest rates. So it means if you are borrowing this amount of money, the amount of money that you're going to top up is less because the bank is having low interest rates. So it means organizations will be encouraged to borrow money from the bank to invest it in capital. Like we are buying long-term assets that will be used in the running of organizations. But then once the bank and other institutions, they're having higher interest rates. So for example, let's imagine 20% of the principal. It means as an organization, so if we have an organization, we might be discouraged to go for that loan if we want to fund our capital investment. So just because the rates of these banks are high, we might also be discouraged as an organization or firms to go for those investments or capital investments. Questions on this? So if there are no questions, then we have to continue. So the next factor, it's called exchange rate. So an organization will also be affected by the exchange rate. So in most cases, this one is applying to an organization which is involved in international trade. So we may be an organization which is also involved in international trade. So by being involved in international trade, we mean we have customers who are based in foreign countries, and then also we have suppliers who are based in foreign countries. So when the organization is involved in international trade, or it is global, it is also affected by exchange rates. So by definition, it's just the rate at which one currency can be exchanged for the other. So we have our own currency, which is the Malawi kwacha. So we are comparing our own currency with other countries' currencies. For example, in most cases, our currency, the Malawi kwacha, is compared to the US dollar. So, for example, one US dollar, it's equal to, okay, this is just an example. I don't know if I'm being accurate. So for example, so we are having one US dollar, which is the most commonly used currency across the world. One US dollar is equal to 1,728 kwacha. So we are having an organization which is operating in this economy, whereby it's operating using the local currency, but then it is also transacting with customers or with suppliers who are based in foreign countries. So it means these foreign-based customers or suppliers, they're not using our currency. They are using the dollars. And then as an organization, we are using the local currency, the kwacha. So it means this currency, it has to be converted to dollars when we are transacting these people. And then these people, they are paying in dollars, but then it also has to be converted to kwachas. So now, the changes in exchange rates, they also affect the operations of this business. So now, for businesses, they have what we call foreign exchange gains and foreign exchange losses. So based on the changes of the currency, the organizations can go through what we call foreign exchange gains or foreign exchange losses. So the foreign exchange gains happens when the local currency which the organization or which our business is using, it's appreciating or it's increasing in value. So for example, the kwacha is increasing in value against the dollar. So it means this kwacha is changing. So instead of $1 at 1,728, it's $1 1,600. So it means kwacha is appreciating or kwacha is increasing in value. So imagine we are an organization, and then we sold products. Okay. So imagine we're a customer of a specific organization, or we are also an organization, but then we are ordering raw materials from a company which is based in other countries, and then we were doing our transaction at this rate. So for example, we ordered products worth millions, but then we were using this rate. But then the kwacha has appreciated. So it's now this $1 to 1,600. So when we are paying, we are using this rate, not the previous rate. So because we are using this rate means we are paying less as compared to what we would have paid if we were using this rate. So in this case, it means we are paying less. It means we are gaining from the currency. So at this point, it means the organization, it gains from the currency, from the foreign currency. So in our previous classes, when we were looking at the profit and loss, we said we have some expenses that are not related to the business, but then they affect the business. So this is one of the expense, the foreign gains or the foreign losses. So we are paying 1,600 instead of paying this amount. So it means we have gained as an organization. But then we can also lose as an organization, whereby it was at 1,700, but then the kwaja keeps on losing value. It has reached 1,800. It means an invoice was sent using this amount, but then the kwaja has lost its value. It means we have to pay by using the current value. So it means we are using 1,800. So now if this organization had already budgeted on the amount of money to be paid to suppliers, but then they're going through this, the exchange rate, means they'll be affected. So it means they'll have to use more money for them just to pay the suppliers, because their local currency is losing value. So that's exchange rate. So it becomes a disadvantage to the organizations who are based in weaker economies. For example, Malawi. So if organizations in Malawi, they want to go global, or they want to be offering products to foreign customers, and then they are faced with this, it becomes a disadvantage. So in most cases, they might say, we are no longer going to be offering products to foreign customers because of this disadvantage of exchange rates. Questions on exchange rates? And so the questions, if you don't have questions, the question would be, so how would the organization respond to this? How would it respond to exchange rates? How would an organization respond to exchange rates? For example, so we have to assume this organization is based in Malawi, and then it's faced by this problem whereby, so in most cases, Malawian currency doesn't appreciate, it depreciates. So it means if it's 1,700, so by the end of for example, 1 month, it will be 1,800. So it means this organization is operating in an environment where it's losing as compared to gaining. So it's losing at most times as compared to gaining. So how would this organization respond?
How is that doing?
Yeah.
See the cost of production.
Yes. So they will increase the prices of the products. So yes, that's exactly what most organizations do. So because we are paying at high cost, the raw materials, so if the raw materials are expensive, it means obviously when we have produced the product, we're also going to have high prices for that product. So now that brings to another point, which is called inflation. So all these factors, they are related. So inflation. So we are having this organization, because of exchange rates, it's increasing its prices, and then it's leading to this another external factor within the environment. So this is just the general increase of prices. So this is what Malawians are going through right now, or what we are going through right now, the general increase of prices. So for example, in 2020, the price at which we are buying sugar or bread is not what we are buying these commodities in 2024. So it means the prices are increasing. So that increase of prices is called inflation. For example, maize. 5 years from now, 5 years, we were not buying maize at what we are currently buying now. So now it's a little bit expensive. So it means that is inflation. So the prices for maize have also increased. So it means our country, Malawi, is going through what we call inflation. So as he said, inflation can come from the gains. So if we are buying raw materials at high at a price which is not affordable, for example, at expensive prices, then obviously we are going to set high prices for those products. So by setting high prices, it means we are giving room to inflation. Now we'll be faced with inflation. So inflation in an organization has got several effects, and in most cases, these effects are negative. So inflation doesn't bring any positive effect to the business. The first one is the purchasing power. So inflation, or the general increase of prices, it reduces the purchasing power of customers who are based within the market. So this purchasing power, it just refers to the amount of products that your currency can afford. So purchasing power, the amount of products that your currency can afford, or the amount of products that you can buy with a specific amount of money. So you, for example, you have 5,000, which is the highest banknote in Malawi, 5,000. So the question would be, how much can you buy with 5,000 right now? And in 2017, if you had 5,000, how many products would you buy? Would you have bought with 5,000? So there's a difference. So because huh? I should come again. Huh? So I think someone has a question. Okay, so yes, I'm saying the general increase of prices, it reduces the consumer purchasing power. So the consumer purchasing power, it refers to the amount of products that a specific amount of money can buy. So I was giving an example with our highest banknote in Malawi, 5,000. So I was saying in 2017, you were buying a lot of products with 5,000. But then now, in 2024, the prices have gone up. So it means you can't buy so many products with 5,000. So it means the purchasing power of customers is reduced just because the products are increasing, or the products are increasing in prices. So it means, one, reducing the purchasing power of customers. The other one is adjustment in interest rates, thereby impacting borrowing and investment. So when prices are increasing, we also have lending institutions, the banks. They also increase the interest that is there for a person to borrow the finances. So the banks also think of increasing the interest rates just because the prices for the products are increasing. Now we have already observed what this increase of interest rates will have on consumers. So it means these consumers, because the interest rates are increased, they won't spend more on purchasing the products because they won't have access to loans just because of the interest rates which is increased. So it means it is also affecting the businesses. This one is one of the most obvious. It's also increasing operating costs of a business. So things are increasing, the operating costs are also increasing. Examples would be the wages, the salaries which are needed by employees. So because these employees, they also have families to look after, So they will strive for salary increment. So they'll pressurize the management to improve their salaries because the products are increasing. So now it's increasing, one, the operating expenses, the salaries that businesses have to pay to their employees. And then also other wages. For example, electricity wages, it's also increasing. And then marketing wages or marketing expenses, administration expenses, they are also increasing because the products on the market are increasing. Wage pressure is also related to the salaries of the employees. So due to the products that are increasing, organizations, employees within the organization, they can strive for better payments. And then they will pressurize the organization to increase or to improve their compensations. So this will also affect the organizations in the long term. On investment choices, it means the organization will have to think before making choices by considering the price, or the overall price of that investment they want to venture into. So we may have an organization which wants to buy, for example, a motor vehicle for an organization, or it wants to buy land. It means this organization has to first consider the price. So if the price is costly, it means the organization can decide not to buy that investment, or not to invest in that commodity. So it means everything is being affected by how prices are on the market. Yeah. Change of what? Change of what? Yeah. Or exchange rates. Yeah. So that's what he said. So exchange rates is also influencing inflation. So we are buying things at this price. So this is a raw material we are buying, but then we don't have to pay at this rate. We are forced to pay at this rate. So it means it has increased, and the cost of these raw materials, it means it has increased. So when we are setting prices, we won't set prices based on this price, but then we'll set prices based on this price. So it means we are coming up with expensive prices for our products. So by that action, it means we are contributing to inflation, because we are setting our prices at high prices, and then which is leading to inflation. So all this, so inflation, exchange rates, and interest rates, they are both related. So inflation rate can influence exchange rate, and then exchange rate can also influence inflation.
But the question,
Yeah.
on inflation and exchange rate,
Yeah.
for the past decade, China was deliberately creating their economy so that they can attract more customers. Would that
Yeah.
attract as can we say that also inflation has a positive side, not only focusing on the negative?
Yeah, it also has a positive side. So inflation. So I think this is also what our country Malawi does. So they can also inflate, or they can also depreciate our currency deliberately for other things to work within the economy. So for example, as you said, we are depreciating our currency for us to have more income within the economy. So it can also be an advantage to inflation. So we can also look at that example by looking at the national debt. So if if a nation has debt that has to be paid, that nation can depreciate its currency in order to be able to pay for the debt. So inflation, it means we are reducing the value of our income for us to have a large supply of currency within the economy. So, okay, he was saying, so his question was, does inflation has positive impacts? So we are, in this case, we are just considering the negative impacts of inflation. So he was saying, does inflation also has positive impacts? So he gave an example of China. So China deliberately reduced the value of its income for other benefits. So I said, yes, inflation, at some point, it can have positive impacts. So this is where the impact is coming from. So it can happen that within the economy, what you say, within the economy, there is scarcity of currency. So the income is not found in the country, or it's being scarce for people to have money within the country. So it means this country is deliberately reducing the value of its currency for this country to have a lot of income circulating within the markets. So it means as a country, we are doing this deliberately for us to have income circulating within the market. So, and then in most cases, this is done by through the pressure of IMF, which is International Monetary Fund. So as a country, we cannot have the decision to reduce the value, but then through the International Monetary Fund policies, it can influence us, or it can pressurize us to reduce the value of our currency. So it's not just a decision which can be made by the leaders within the nation, but then it's also influenced by other stakeholders. For example, the International Monetary Fund. So yes, I would say some organizations, they can reduce the value for other benefits that they think they will have after the reduction of a currency. Yeah. Any questions, or we have to go to the next one? So unemployment, it's also another factor within unemployment. So Malawi is one of the countries which is affected by unemployment. So we have people who are skilled, who have everything. They have qualifications, they have degrees or master's degrees, but then they're not able to find a job. So that becomes unemployment. And unemployment is one of the economic challenges facing a number of countries across the globe. So as a business, it can also be affected by unemployment. So the unemployment rates of a country can also influence the operations of a business. But then before we look at that influence, here are just some of the causes of unemployment, which I think they are self-explanatory. So overpopulation, it's one of the causes of unemployment. So obviously, if we are living in a country which is overpopulated, so it has so many people, it means, so we have so many people, and then we have limited job opportunities. So it means not everyone within this, who is in this country will afford jobs, because the job opportunities are limited, but then the population is high. And then we have technological advancement. It's also influencing unemployment. So now, in modern times, we're having technology which is replacing human beings in workplaces. For example, this organization, it used to have employees working on a production machine, but then due to the technological advancement, this organization has bought a machinery. So instead of using human beings to operate on production, this organization is just using a machine. And this machine is being efficient and effective as compared to the human workers. So by this advancement, it means it's reducing the job opportunities. So that means technological advancement, it's influencing to job losses within the industry. low economic activity is also another factor which is influencing or which is contributing to unemployment. So this is much prevalent in countries which are developing. So a good example is Malawi. So in countries like Malawi, whereby we are having low economic activity, or by low economic activity means there are not so much, for example, business organizations that are established to employ people. So we don't have more organizations into primary sector, secondary sector, and also tertiary sector. So by not having more organizations, it means more people will not be employed. So it means low economic activity of a given country, it is influencing or it is contributing to unemployment. Education is also another factor. So the majority of job opportunities, they require a person to have skills in certain activities. For example, if it's marketing, so you must have skills in marketing. So if it's in production or finance, you have to have skills in finance. So we have someone, he wants to be employed, but then he or she doesn't have the skills or the needed education. It means it will be hard for him or her to secure a job at a certain company just because of his education. So he or she doesn't have skills, and then it will obviously be hard for him to secure employment. Poverty, which is also the final one. So it means, one, poverty can lead to low level of education. Poverty can lead to low economic activity. So it means poverty, the overall poverty levels of a nation can also contribute to unemployment. So what happens is that people who are living in poverty-stricken regions, they usually have low level of education. Then it also means in that population, there are also low economic activity. And then it also has high chances of having high population in that population where people are living in poverty. So it means poverty as a factor, it is also contributing to unemployment within the nation. So these are some of the factors contributing to unemployment within a nation or within an economy. But then we also there are also certain factors that can also contribute to poverty within, to unemployment. Yes. So who can explain on how poverty can lead to unemployment? Yes.
Like today, they were chasing how the government to pay their school fees.
Yeah.
So if you can't afford to pay school fees, you can't afford.
Yeah.
So if you don't have enough money, don't have proper price.
Yes. So yes. So that's a good example. So poverty. So here's an example of yes. Yeah.
Could some of those factors that could be some factors of this inflation, like the fact of
Yes. So we can use this factor, low economic activity and low level of education. So it depends on how you explain your point. So for example, with low economic activity, yes, it can cause inflation. So, so we have an organization which is found in an economy where there is low economic activity. So it means this organization doesn't have competitors because it is found in this economy whereby the activity is minimal. So this organization can charge whatever prices it wants to charge. So it has produced a product, it can set prices, it can come up with prices that it wants to have because it doesn't have competition. So if it's having high prices, it means they are also contributing to inflation because they're increasing the prices of goods just because they are not having competitors within that market. So yes, it can also contribute. So that's one point. And then the other point is that, so that organization can also wants to go global by also providing products to international markets. So because it's living in an economy which is low, it means its currency obviously will be depreciating, not appreciating. So if it's going global and then the currency is also depreciating, it means they also have to be charging more prices because their local currency it's depreciating. So it means low economic activity of a nation in which a country, an organization is based, is also contributing to inflation. So yes, so these factors, they can also contribute to inflation. So it just depends on how you are describing them, on how they contribute to inflation. Questions? Any questions? So now, this is some of the ways in which unemployment can reduce the economic activity of a nation and also of a business. So for example, social welfare and government policies. So if we are living in an economy whereby there are more people who are not employed, it means these people, they will rely on government and government services. So government will come up with policies that will be aiming up at helping people who are not employed. So by doing that means the government resources, instead of using them on other activities, the government is taking these resources to support these people who are not employed within the economy. So by doing that means the government, because it's channeling some of the resources towards helping those people who are not employed, it means this government is also reducing its economic activity within the nation. So that's one of the negatives, or one of the negative influence of unemployment. So by having high rates of unemployment, the government will be forced, because these people, they are found within the government. So the government will be forced to channel some of the resources towards helping these people by improving their social welfare. So by doing this, it means the government is also being impacted negatively on the economic activity within the nation. And the other one, it's reducing consumer spending and economic growth. So we are living in this economy whereby more people are not employed. It means employees will not have more money to spend on products, because the majority of people in this economy, they are not employed. So they will not have money to spend on products. And then it will have effects to the organization or to the business. So it means the business will be forced to sell their products at low prices because they are not finding customers to buy their products. Just because the majority of people in that economy, they are not employed. So as an organization, they'll have to sell the products at low prices, just because the economy is not offering job opportunities. This one, it's income inequality, another impact. So because most people are not employed, we'll have these differences between the most richest person in that community and then the most poorest person. So it means income will not be fairly distributed between people who are living in that economy, just because some people, they're not able to find employment. And then, yeah, the demand will also reduce, and also the labor supply also reduce. So because people are not employed, the amount of products that they can demand from the business will reduce. So because these people, they don't have money to pay for that product. So the amount of products they are willing to buy from the business will also reduce. But then there also be some fluctuations or changes in labor supply. Labor now. So because there are no employment, it's easy for an organization to exploit an individual for low-paying jobs, because this person, yes, he is qualified, he has everything, but then he's not able to find a job. So if he goes to a certain company and then the company offers him low wages, this person is going to accept these wages because that's his last resort. So he has nowhere to go. So it means the government, I mean the organization, it's easy for this organization to exploit someone with low-paying jobs just because this person is not able to find jobs of his or her qualifications. So now it means all these practices that are coming because of unemployment, they're affecting the productivity and also the economic influence of an organization or of a nation. So, as I have already said, these are changes that cannot be controlled by the organization itself. So as a business, we cannot control unemployment, but maybe the government with other stakeholders, they can control unemployment. But then as a single organization, we cannot control unemployment. So that's why it's called external, because it comes from outside the organization's premises. Questions? So we are on government legislation. So government legislation. So a government is another stakeholder which is external, which affect the organization activities. So government legislation. So the legislative is one of the three arms of a government. So the legislative is aimed at formulating policies. So each and every government formulates policies on how things must go within the organization. So as a government, it can formulate policies that can define how organizations must go about in the market. So these policies, they can either influence or positively influence or hinder the growth of businesses within a market. So we are having government policies or government legislations that also affect how businesses operate on the market. So government can influence policies on inflation. So it can decide, as he said, it can decide either to appreciate or to devalue the nation's currency. So that decisions can be made by the government. So if it's depreciating the currency, it means it will have effects on the operations of businesses within that market. And then we can also have some legal and regulatory changes. So government can come up with new laws. So for example, employment law on how organizations should treat their employees. So as a government, it can formulate those laws on how organizations should approach its human resources. For example, employees on minimum wages. So a government can put in place laws on minimum wages of employees. So it means as an organization, we have to follow all these laws, all these regulations that are set by the government. So in some instances, these laws, they may have a positive influence on the direction of activities within the organization, or they may also have a negative influence. For example, with new laws on inflation, it can negatively influence the organization. And then with new laws, for example, on promotion of local-based industries, it can have a positive influence on the organization. So government policies, they also have a significant influence on the productivity or the efficiency of an organization. So the last one, it's technology. So as I already said, the country is going through technological changes. So each and every day we're having new ways of doing things. So we're having new gadgets that are very much efficient and effective. So as an organization, it has to adapt to these changes. So it means if an organization wants to survive on the market, it has to develop or it has to adopt efficient and effective new gadgets in order to attract more customers as well as to stay competitive on the market. So these technological disruptions or technological changes, they also have an influence on the organization's performance. So for example, introduction of a certain machinery within the organization can either accelerate the performance of employees or it can also hinder the performance of employees. For example, so if we are in an organization and then the organization has introduced a machinery, so which is a technology, so people may resist to this change because some people, they are used to the old ways of doing things. So introduction of a machinery within the organization, although it can have positive influences or impacts, but then it can also have negative impacts. So we are having people who are resisting this technology because one, maybe they have fear of failure because they'll not be able to use this machinery, or maybe they're just stuck to how they do things, so they don't want to change. Or maybe they don't want to lose power. So when we are introducing a machinery or a technology within the organization, we may have some people who might lose their influence or their power within the organization because a machine will be doing the work, and then them as people, they will not have much to do within the organization. So it means their power will be reduced. So even though technological advancement has got a positive impact, but then it also has these negative impacts that affect the organization's operations. So now there's a need for organizations to adapt to these changes. So within the organization, the employees, they have to get adapted to these changes. So this might include providing training and development programs within the organization for people to be familiar with activities going on within this organization. Questions so far? So is it clear on these factors?
Yes.
So next week we'll have a presentation. No. The vision is next week. But then, yeah, next week we're having a presentation. So we are still on these factors. But then So I think we have groups for this course. So we have to have groups for this course. So how many are not doing introduction to management theory and practice? So you're not taking introduction to management. So you'll be in the first group. So you'll be in the second group, third group, then fourth group. So we are, yes. So yeah, the fifth group, the first group. So 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 next week we are having a presentation. So we are still on. So guys, we are still on the environment of a business, and we are still on external environment. So the first group, you present on political environment of a business. The political environment of the business. The second group, you present on economic environment of a business. So the second group is presenting on economic environment. The third group, it's technological environment of a business. So the last group, they are presenting on, yeah. Group 5. So, or group 4, it's technological environment. Okay, group 3, they are doing group 3. Okay, so okay, group 1, you are doing political environment. Group 2, economic environment. Group 3, you are doing social environment. So it's social and cultural environment. Group 3. Group 4, you are doing technological environment. The last group, you are doing environmental environment. The environmental. Wait. Okay, you are doing legal environment. Legal environment. So okay, so we have to form new groups.